it's Jenna from scribblinggrace.com. Today I'm doing a Thanksgiving Bible journaling page of pie. So I've done a few Thanksgiving pages in the past. Last year I did pumpkins, but this year I thought that I would do a pie because who doesn't love pie? Well, I actually don't love pie, but I was thinking about doing a pumpkin or chocolate because chocolate is my favorite, or maybe apple, but since those are more traditional for Thanksgiving, but I felt like those weren't very easy to paint in my journaling Bible, so I decided to go with a cherry pie, and I think it turned out really pretty. So I am using this little free printable that I made that you can get for free in the blog post that goes along with this video at scribblinggrace.com/pie, and I will put that link in the description below, but it is a pretty easy one to remember this time. But you can head on over there, and there's a little thing that will say, click here to download the printable. You click there, and you'll go straight to that PDF file. So there's no signups or anything necessary. And I hope that you have fun with it. So I am basically just tracing my printable here with my Tombow Funosuke brush pen. You could also use like a micron pen. I am using the Funosuke because it's able, like, if I apply pressure, I'm able to get thicker lines. So I'm just kind of applying some pressure here to get some fairly thick lines for my pie. And this lattice can be a little tricky, so that's why the printable is super helpful to show you how to do this lattice drawing here. And then there's also in the printable, you can see the shading of where the shadows are going to be. So you're going to try to like shade that in as well, because if you don't do the shading, I think that it really does look a lot better if you add in what I'm doing here. Basically, I'm just kind of like doing some little lines, little tiny lines on the sides of my lattice in the certain spots. To get that, like, make it look like that lattice is kind of popping up. And it really adds so much dimension and really, I think, makes this pie look a lot more like pie. So I would encourage you, definitely check out that printable because it will help to guide you along on this pie page here. So again, I'm just going to continue tracing along that. One thing to note with this page that I'm doing here is that I am going over the text on my page. And this one, normally when I go over the text on the page, I always want to make sure that I can still read it. But because I'm using the pen over it, it is harder to read. I can still make it out if I work really hard to read it. But I know that many of you do not want to go over the scripture, so you could totally just either move the pie over and make it even smaller portion of the pie, or you could print this printable out at a smaller scale so that it can fit in the margin, or you can make a tip-in out of it. You could even just use the printable straight and just paint straight onto the printable to add the color, kind of like a coloring page. And of course you could also use colored pencils or whatever medium of choice, whatever your favorite medium of choice is too. So you can totally make this your own. I encourage you to have fun with it and do what is meaningful to you. I personally don't mind if I can't read all of the words in this Bible because I really do just use this Bible for art worship. And I have other Bibles that I read and study from. So that's a common question that I have. But that is a totally personal decision. So do what is feels right to you. So now that I have my pie all sketched out, I'm going to start adding the paint. And this honestly can be a little bit tricky. I'm using watercolors. I'm using my Kuretake Kansas Tambi watercolor set. And the hardest part for me was probably getting the coloring of the pie crust right. So I started off with kind of a peachy tone to do kind of a base, and then I'm going to add in some more yellows, yellow ochre, a little bit of brown, and a little bit of a rust tone. I can't remember the exact name of, but we'll find the names to all of the colors they used and put those in the blog post. Again, that's scribblinggrace.com/pie, so be sure to head on over there for all the fun stuff that you need. I'll also put all the links to the supplies I'm using and all that fun stuff as well. So again, that's in the description below. So again, I'm just kind of painting on a base of that peach color with a small flat paintbrush, and now I'm adding in a little bit of yellow ochre. And what I'm going to try to do is add the darker colors into more of the center of each, I guess I'll call them rectangles. So each rectangle that makes up my lattice, I'm going to try to make the center a little bit darker. So that'll look like when you bake a pie, the pie crust that's underneath a piece of lattice, or a piece of pie crust, the part that goes underneath isn't going to be as dark because obviously there's something on top of it. So the parts that are on the top closest to the heat source are going to be darker, obviously. And fun fact, because I did go to culinary school for baking and pastry before I started this whole Bible journaling blog, I actually went to school at Culinary Institute of America. And what we call the browning process in the oven is called Maillard reaction. So, so basically, when your pie is getting browner, that's because of the Maillard reaction that it is having. Again, I'm trying to just kind of like picture that Maillard reaction and paint those middle portions of those rectangles a little bit darker, as hopefully you can see. And I'm also switching between my colors here. I'm switching between that rust color and that yellow ochre and a little bit of that peach and a little bit of brown as well. Just really just trying to figure out that pie crust color. And I felt like at the end it really does look like a pie crust. And I feel like I can't really explain exactly how I mixed those colors. I think that that's something that kind of just comes with practice. And if I don't really mix my colors off on like in a palette or on a plate or anything like that, I just use the paints directly out of these pans, of my watercolor pans. Or I'll mix them even inside of the pans, which you're not really supposed to do, but it works for me. But you could absolutely like mix the colors on the side and test them out and make sure that you're getting the colors that you want before you put them on the page. It is something that kind of comes with practice. So I do feel like this page may not be totally great for beginners unless you're using like colored pencils. The paints can be a little bit trickier, but it is totally doable and it's a really fun one to try. Okay, so now I'm going to add my cherry filling. So I am still using that small flat paintbrush, and I'm using some red. I actually used a red color and a like deep orange to do my cherry pie filling. And this is really bright, so you could totally use darker reds if you have them. Maybe add in a little bit of brown to make it darker if you want. But I really like the idea of having a really bright cherry filling. So I'm just filling in those squares really easily. And then I'm going to I'm not worrying too much about filling them in perfectly either. I'm kind of going to let those boxes be a little bit messy. And I actually decided afterwards to make it even messier because I want that cherry pie filling to be bubbling over the edges a little bit and over the pie crust because this is a nice homemade pie. So sometimes that filling gets everywhere, you know? So I kind of dabbed a little bit of the red onto my lattice work as well, just like little dots here and there, as you can see. Just trying to add a little bit of that red, make it look a little bit more fun, I guess. And now I'm going to add my vision of a plate, but this is just kind of to give you the idea that the pie isn't just floating there. And it just gives a nice little background. So I just used this dark blue color and still that same paintbrush, and I kind of got it a little bit darker down in the bottom right part of the pie, making that part a little bit bigger too, and then just kind of filling in the rest of my page with water just to make the texture of the page be the same. So you can see that the edges of my page are still pretty white. There's not really much color in those that spot, just because again, I just wanted to make sure I had at least some water down, because if you do have water on some part of the Bible page and not on the others, I feel like the texture can get a little wonky. So if you just paint the whole page, the texture of the page just feels a lot better, because it does wrinkle with the watercolors. I do find that the pages flatten out over time with the Bible closed, so I personally don't mind, and I actually love the wrinkly pages, but that is something to keep in mind. So then I went ahead and I added more of that red to the blue at the bottom, just to look like, you know, that, again, that cherry pie filling kind of splattering around, a little bit messy of a pie. And I just kind of flicked it onto my page, and I also flicked some of the blue. I think I'm going to add more blue splatter in a second, but I'm going to dry this off really quickly with my heat gun and then move on. All right, so I also decided to add a little bit of highlight with my Uniposca or Uniball Signo white gel pen. And I'm just kind of scribbling around. This part is totally unnecessary, but I, again, was just kind of decided to go a little bit messy with this. So just adding these little scribbles of white. They're not super noticeable, and they may not even show up in this video at all. But in the finished product, you can kind of see it. These little white scribbles, and I think it looks really fun. It's just a fun little finishing touch, but it is, again, not a necessary thing, just a lot of fun. All right, and now I'm going to add some lettering, and I totally forgot to tell you what verse I'm working on. I'm working on 1 Chronicles 16, verse 34, which says, "Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his steadfast love endures forever." And I thought that that was a good one for Thanksgiving. So I'm just really quickly lettered out "Give Thanks" with some brush calligraphy using that same Tombow Funusuke brush pen that I did to trace the pie. And if you're new here, I do have tutorials on doing brush calligraphy and faux calligraphy and other lettering tutorials, and I'll put those links in the blog post that goes along with this video. Again, along with the printable and other supply links and all the fun stuff that you need to create a page just like this. So again, that link is scribblinggrace.com/pie. I also wrote out Thanksgiving 2020. It is a little bit before Thanksgiving when I made this page, but that's okay. And now I'm just adding some more splatter, more of that blue and more red as well. I felt like it just needed a little bit something extra on that bottom part of the page to help offset the really heavy pie in the one corner. So just flicked my finger along the edge of the brush and created a bunch of fun splatter. And then I felt like it was a little dark, so I just took my towel and blotted it up a little bit and made those colors a little bit lighter so I could still see my lettering and all that stuff underneath it. So that's it for my page. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that you'll check out that free printable. And if you do create a page based off of this, please share it with me on social media, Scribbling Grace, so that I can see it. I love to see the pages that you guys create. All right, I hope that you have a wonderful day, and if you're in the US and watching this as I'm posting the video, I hope that you have a really wonderful Thanksgiving. All right, much love, many blessings. Bye.